Hello friends, and welcome to another day of Crochet and Crime. My name is Hazy Baby. As you can see, I have made it to day 2 of reposting my videos about crochet and crime. If you've not seen my channel before, then please head on over. I crochet while talking about crime, specifically Australian crime. So yeah, if that's your jam, if you love crochet, fiber arts, or crime, well, hearing about crime, then head on over to my channel and listen. I am on YouTube, so the link is in my bio. And yes, if you would like to win a crochet blanket, all you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel and comment on one of my videos, and you can go into the draw to win a blanket. Once I have 1,000 subscribers, I will be drawing that blanket out just like that sentence, and yeah, one lucky person will walk away with one of my wonderful, fabulous designs. Yeah, as you can tell, I don't believe that, but it is what it is, and it will be what it will be. So without further ado, let's get this party started. Today is Wednesday, the 28th of the 6th, 2023. And like I said, if you're new to my channel, welcome, welcome. And if you're old hat, then welcome back. Okay, let's get this party started. Okie dokie. As you can see, I am still working on the same rounds that I was doing yesterday, as I am very time poor at the moment and trying to organize myself. But yeah, it is, like I said, it is what it is, and it will be what it will be. Slow and steady wins this race, and my sister is in no hurry to get this blanket to her home, although I'm sure she would rather it sooner rather than later. Feeling a little bit bereft of my nail polish. I have taken work back as a baker, so that means I pretty much can't have nail polish because, yeah, I don't want it to accidentally, even though I wear gloves and stuff, I still don't want it to accidentally end up in someone's bread. Chipped off glove and all that jazz. You know what I mean? Chipped off paint inside a glove. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So yeah, you'll be seeing my naked fingernails for a while. Alrighty, let's get this party started. And the first one is sisters who were abused by ultra-Orthodox principals share their pain. So I spoke about this a couple of months ago. It was quite popular case that was happening here in Australia. Popular as in it was just in the news a lot. The principal was a female principal, if I remember correctly, and the students who accused her of sexual harassment were obviously 3 young girls who were now full-grown women, and it was a historic sexual harassment case. So that is the basic gist. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of that doozy. So yeah. But, so the first person to tell Ellie Sapper that she was loved was Melka Leffer, her school principal, and a woman highly revered in the ultra-Orthodox Jewish community. So Sapper was raised in a home devoid of love and affection and yearned for the care of Leffer purported and provided. Faced with the painful truth that her love wasn't real, was a betrayal of such magnitude that it left me broken, Sapper said. So Sapper told Leffer at a pre-sentencing hearing in the Victorian court on Wednesday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's like super sad. So the former principal and head of the religion at the Adass Israel School was convicted in April for sexually abusing Sapper and her sister's Dassie Elrich when they were students between 2003 and 2007. A jury of 6 men and 6 women found her guilty of 18 charges, including rape, indecent assault, sexual penetration of a child aged 16 and 17. The 56-year-old mother of 8 was acquitted of 9 charges, including 5 against the older sibling, Nicole Mayer. So it turns out She was disgusting. So Leffer appeared in a court by video link from a prison where she's been held on remand for sentencing. Since she would like... Sorry. Blah, 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 blah. Leffer appeared in court by video link from a prison where she's been held since extradition from Israel. So she, like, fled the country. And then they extradited her back to Australia in 2020. Thank God. But she's supported by her family and friends. Sorry, that is the victim again. Jesus, I can't read today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Trying to do 2 things at once. So Sapper has struggled to quantify the impacts of the abuses had on her life. But she's supported by her family and her friends, and she refuses to be left to be broken by this woman. So she said that she will not allow her abuse to diminish my present or my future. She said she was pregnant when she gave evidence against Leffer during a week-long trial earlier this year. Her daughter was the light in the darkness after years of trying to get pregnant and many pregnancy losses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So I don't know what that has to do with the price of eggs in China, but honestly... Alrighty, she said that she needed to be strong, and she gave evidence against Leffer because she cared about her future life. 6 days before the verdict, we lost our little girl. Her heart stopped beating, she said. Oh, that's so horrible. There were no concrete answers, there were no abnormalities, and we'll never know if the stress or anxiety of the years of trauma contributed to the loss of my little girl. Oh my God, that's so horrible. So she's lost... she miscarried, and then... gave birth to a live baby, and the child died. That is so sad. I'm so sad for her. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Like, I'm so sad that I want to move on from this story. That's how sad I am. She said that today that she stands as a survivor and the darkness doesn't define her. All the 3 sisters have read out a statement in the pre-sentence hearing, victim impact statements, and it is expected that that will run for another 2 days. So hopefully they'll get the justice they are asking for, although I highly doubt it. And it would have been so difficult for these 3 women to come forward in such an Orthodox church to have a female abuser. Would have been so difficult. So difficult. Anyway, let us move on. Hopefully she'll get her comeuppance in this life or the next. Okay, so wife killer Chris Dawson has been found guilty of having sex with a student. So, I don't know if you guys know this story, and I have talked about it before, but Christopher Dawson was a football player, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so Christopher Dawson is already expected to spend the rest of his life in jail for murdering his wife, but a judge has now found him guilty of an unlawful relationship with one of his students as well. Dawson will be sentenced in September, but Judge Sarah Haggett delivered the guilty verdict on Wednesday following a New South Wales District Court trial of the former rugby league player, so I was right, and high school teacher. I think he was like a sports teacher or something, if I remember correctly. Alright, so Dawson was jailed in 2022 for killing his wife, Lynette Dawson, who was last seen more than 4 decades earlier. So it's believed that he murdered his wife and then moved in a young, quote-unquote, nanny, who was also a former student of his, to help raise his children, apparently. So The Supreme Court judge found he wanted to pursue an unfettered relationship with a student. So that is the reason that they're giving for the motive for killing his wife. In the latest judge-alone trial, Dawson pled not guilty to one count of carnal knowledge as a teacher of a girl over 10 and under 17 years of age, and a historical charge replaced in 1986. That's how old that one is. It's almost as old as me. The 74-year-old was given frequent breaks during the trial due to his quote-unquote health issues. His 24-year sentence for killing Lynette, whose body has never been found, and laws preventing his parole before it is, means that he's suspected to live out his days in prison. Okay, so in Australia, once you get convicted of murder now, if there is no body and you are convicted of murder, then there's no parole. No body, no parole. So until a body is found, you can't get paroled, which is pretty good, I think. At least, hopefully, it'll bring some closure. Hopefully he'll say where her body is. But I doubt it. Alright, that's the last of that colour. Anyway, so Dawson appeared in the court via a video link on Wednesday, speaking to confirm that he could hear the judge. He shook his head as Haggett recounted the description of him leading other teachers to seduce vulnerable schoolgirls with the incident when another student saw the complainant sitting on his lap in the office. So during a trial for AB for legal reasons, a student at Dawson's sports class of Year 11, 1980 said she became engaged with an alleged sexual activity between July and the end of that school year. So I was right, he was a sports teacher. I'm pretty sure he's a twin as well, if I remember correctly. He's got a twin brother. Looks exactly the same as him. So that would be sucky. Literally one evil twin, one good twin. Public defender Claire Wosley urged the judge to doubt critical factors of her evidence. Haggett did find some unreliable, however, most of her critical evidence. So it's hard to say that because, let's say, it's been over 40 years since the sexual incident took place. Memory is already fickle and hard to recall when things happen. Plus, trauma is one of those things your brain tries to protect you from. So it creates not... I wouldn't say like it creates false facts or false memories, but it definitely creates clouded memories because your brain is trying to protect you, so it locks those memories up so that your brain is good like that. It will only give you what it thinks you can handle, what it thinks it can handle, and if it becomes just too much, then it sort of just leaves a big gap or a big void, and you have this just blank time in memory, and you might get the occasional snippet of what happened, and this is the reason why memory is unreliable in these kinds of cases. And the same thing can be said for any sort of traumatic event, not just sexual trauma, but a lot of that trauma stuff. Yes. But these are the things I like to talk about because I am in the process of writing a memoir about trauma and the brain and memories. So, stay tuned. You might hear some of that later. Let's move on to our very next story. So William Terrell, again, if you're not Australian, I will get you acquainted with the story. William Terrell was a little boy who went missing from the front porch of his foster family's home one day. He was just playing on the veranda and then he wasn't there anymore. He has never been found. And it's been quite a few years since he's been seen. You probably have seen pictures of him. He's wearing like a Spider-Man outfit. If you're Australian, I'm not sure if it made international news, but he has been missing for a very long time. So missing and presumed dead, I think. Alrighty, so in the William Terrell case, the foster mother responds after police seek charges against her. So the foster mother of William Terrell has responded to revelations that the New South Wales police have recommended she potentially be charged over the toddler's disappearance nearly a decade ago. Like I said, it was pretty long ago. The lawyers for William's foster mother, who cannot be named, today released a statement claiming that the Director of Public Prosecutions, the DPP, have failed to inform them about the development in the case. So detectives handed a brief of evidence to the DPP this month, recommending that the now 58-year-old woman be charged with perverting the course of justice and interfering with a corpse. So I don't know if that means that they think that she is perhaps not responsible for the death, but definitely responsible for moving the body. They must have some sort of evidence to claim that. So I don't really know. So the most serious of these charges carries a maximum sentence of 14 years in prison. Detectives have been investigating allegations that there was a deadly accident at the home in Kendall on the mid-north coast in 2014. So there you go. It's nearly been a decade. Not quite, but nearly. 2, 3, and 4, and then a single into the tops. 1 and 2. So like I said, guys, I don't really have a pattern for my blankets. I just kind of wing it and hope that they work out. I mean, 9 times out of 10 they do. I think it's a dyslexic superpower. Dyslexia for the win. ADHD for the win. Sometimes, we ramble. Sometimes we get distracted. Most of the time I get really hyper-focused on stuff. But, yeah, I do have this amazing ability to, just be able to make stuff up. Just be like, yeah, that'll do. And then let's just go into the corner here. And then I'll get back to this Terrell case. Two and 3. Look at the stars, look how they shine for you, and all the things that you do. And it was all yellow. So in 2014, the 3-year-old boy disappeared. And the police are suggesting that they're accusing the foster mother of disposing of the 3-year-old's body after an accident. So they're not saying that he was murdered. They're saying that there was a horrific accident, and instead of ringing an ambulance and facing the consequences of whatever that accident may have been, she disposed of the body instead. So she has denied any involvement in the little boy's disappearance. And a statement from her lawyers said the woman contacted detectives this morning directly seeking confirmation regarding the brief of evidence and the possible criminal proceedings that will follow. The media was advised that the brief of evidence was said to the DPP, but failed to inform the foster mother of William Terrell of her legal representation and her ability to get said legal representation. She already obviously has it, as she feels that she has been pretty much under suspicion. I mean, it's kind of the same as the Madeleine McCann parents. They have been under suspicion since day one. It's absolutely just a fucking waste of time. Clearly that girl was kidnapped. It's really sad and very, very tragic, and I really hope, and this is going to sound horrible, I hope that she didn't not survive, because what is the likelihood of some nice family kidnapping her and not some pedophile ring? So let's face it, she died the day that she went missing, whether that's physically or just emotionally. There's no coming back from that. You'll never again be the same person. So yeah, anyway, seems like this woman has a fair bit to fear if the case is strong. So William's disappearance has been under investigation for 9 years without any charges being laid to this date. So his foster mother had previously been ruled out for any wrongdoing in relation to his disappearance. The statement asked the DPP to expeditiously determine whether charges are or could be laid. So the foster mother and her legal representatives call for a disclosure of evidence which police suggest forms a basis for any criminal proceedings. To date, William's body, or William, has never been found. So I think they're under the assumption, or they have said, that he is pretty much no longer alive, which is you can do after 7 years of him being missing. But yeah. Okie dokie. Let's move right along and hope they find more evidence. Okay, so hold on. Investigations have been ongoing for William's disappearance since 2017, with multiple suspects looked at and then cleared, with an inquest that is still being upheld. A new team of detectives reviewed the case in 2020, which resulted in officers descending on a Kendall property where William was last seen and conducting an extensive search later that year, but there was no traces of any remains found. So, yeah. I just wanted to read that last bit because I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Okie dokie, let's move on. Like I have said previously in other videos, most of this content is very heavy. I mean, it is crime. I am talking about crime. I do talk a lot about rape cases. I do talk a lot about missing children. And so I just want to reiterate once again that this content does have some pretty strong violence and stuff like that, so if you are sensitive to that kind of stuff, then please don't report it. Just scroll on, find something else to look at. But yeah, I mean, I just like to know things and I like to be aware, and so therefore I love crochet, so why not? Okie dokie, so moving on, after warning you again about the triggers that might be in place there, I'm going to be talking about a high-profile man's rape case delayed by new phone evidence. So it's in Toowoomba. The prosecutors in the case of this high-profile man, and they haven't said his name yet, accused of rape in Queensland, will seek advice on providing him copies of a medical report linked to the alleged victim. So Toowoomba's Magistrate Court on Wednesday briefly heard the case for the 5th time as part of the process to decide whether the accused man will be committed to stand trial. The man, who cannot be named for legal reasons, faces 2 charges of raping a woman in October of 2021. Crown Prosecutor Nicole Fredwood told the hearing that both parties sought to further adjournment for about 4 weeks. There have been some material disclosure to the defence and recently regarding the disclosure request of a phone downloaded, and I understand that further instructions need to be taken for this matter. The court heard last month that the defendant's solicitors had sought material taken from the alleged victim's phone. So Magistrate Louise Shepherd asked Fridgewater, or whatever her name is, if material obtained from the phone via the cyber right forensic system had been provided to the defence. Portions of the cyber right have been disclosed, but not the entire report, which to me sounds a little bit sketchy. The accused man has been granted bail and was excused from attending court. His solicitor, Rowan King, what a cool name, Rowan, appeared by phone, said he agreed with the 4-week adjournment, and the other outstanding matter was a request to report for a forensic medical officer. I understand there has been a delay, that this is out of your hands, the prosecutor said, but they're asking for the material to be provided. So Crown Prosecutor Sally, swing Sally up, swing Sally down, told the court last month that she'd been working with the police to determine whether any parts of the medical report might be deemed sensitive evidence. Told the court that the medical report could be affected by information retrieved from the alleged victim's phone, so saying that we should read them separately rather than together. Shepherd has adjourned the committed hearing until July 26th, so I think they've given the 4 weeks that they asked for, which was nice. But hopefully, I mean, I have more information on this one a little bit later as it goes on, and we find who this so-called high-profile person is. I think like 9 times out of 10 when they say they're high-profile, I'm like, I don't know who that is. High-profile to whom? But then I also do a lot of reading and not a great deal of watching TV or sport, for that matter. Oh, except USC. I don't mind watching people bash each other up. I don't know why. It's just great. Like that McGregor guy. Ugh, he's such a jerk, though. Although I'm sure it's not USC. Anyway, that's enough rambling for right now. Let's move on to our next story. Okay, so let me just have a sip of my coffee. So far we've had some maybe kidnapping, a little bit of murder, a little bit of rape, and now I'm going to move on to drugs, which are bad, okay? So this next story is Australia must brace itself, apparently, because the top docs are calling back for drug testing amid fears that the fentanyl that they have been using is exploding. Well, that fentanyl is like super dangerous. Oof. So let's read this. So calls for drug testing facilities in Australia have again ramped up over concerns of a huge spike in the deadly opioid fentanyl, which is commonly found mixed into heroin and can be proved to be deadly in doses as low as 2 milligrams. So that's tiny. The Royal Australian College of General Practitioners, also called RACGP, today backed expert calls for drug testing services across the country, branding the move to a common sense measure, which is, fair, that will save lives of the users who are largely flying blind. Because let's face it, and I always thought this was the case, I always love how people will gladly put into their bodies random drugs they get from drug dealers off the street, in nightclubs. I mean, someone grabs an Eckie out of their pocket and takes it more than happily. It's been in some random dude's pocket, probably came into the country in your prison shelf, wink wink. But these same people don't want to take ibuprofen or Panadol if the blister pack has been broken. It boggles my mind, the amount of toxins people are happy to put into their body to chase that high. But anyway, I'm not a drug addict, so I wouldn't know what that's like, and I'm not judging anyone else. The backing comes following the coroner's recommendation that the Victorian government establish a facility to detect fentanyl in 2021, because there was a spike of cases in 2021 where children, and I mean that teenagers, were buying like happy pills or like cramming like drugs that were marketed specifically at them that said it was safe, and if they needed to stay up to do their assignment, they should totally take this amazing pill that, you know, won't hurt them or anything, and they'll get a great high. Anyway, they were dying because they were laced with fentanyl. And the parents have no idea what was going on. But yeah, there was a spike that was in 2021. I think it was more cases in America than there was here in Australia, but you know, just look it up. You'll see. So it's a common sense measure that will save lives, according to the alcohol and other drugs spokesperson. Alcohol and other drugs. Dr. Hester Wilson said, people using drugs, particularly opioid drugs such as heroin, are flying blind and risking their lives every day because no one can tell them whether what they're taking contains fentanyl. And because fentanyl is so cheap, they are using it. I think it'd be stupid, though, to kind of kill off your market. But anyway. Yeah. If it does contain fentanyl, 2 milligrams can be lethal dose of a person of average body size. And let's face it, if people are taking heroin, they are not average body size. They be tiny. They be tiny, y'all. So there really is no time to lose, and it's like 2 years later since, you know, he put it forward. Overseas, in countries such as the US, fentanyl is being added to a range of recreational drugs with crushing results. Currently, Australia only tests whether a batch of drugs contains other hazardous substances at morgues after people have already overdosed. Australia must brace itself because Australian Federal Police have seized huge shipments of fentanyl entering Australia. So where is it going? Why is it coming into this country? By setting up these drug testing centres, people can learn what the drugs they are taking before it's too late. I mean, no one's going to go and hand their drugs in, but like, if it's all over the news that the drugs that were seized contained fentanyl, then maybe, just maybe, and that's a big fucking maybe, the druggies will stop taking the drugs. But I doubt it, because drugs will make you, you know, do some pretty horrific things. So I doubt they're suddenly going to get morals and go, well, you know, they're already risking so much. So I very much doubt that this will stop that from happening. So the centres will not tell the police, apparently. Will not tell people that the drugs they are taking are safe, of course. Instead, the testing will reveal what many people taking these drugs will be aware of, that they cannot trust what is being sold to them, and they're playing a dangerous game, obviously. Duh. Ain't no one coming to your testing facility to say, excuse me, but can you, like, test these drugs for me? Because I want to get high, but I don't want to, like, you know, cock it. All right, moving along. I'm talking now about this sweet and amazing teenager who was stabbed to death in Melbourne's northwest. So I think I spoke about this one yesterday. It was a beautiful little teenage boy who had been stabbed. So teenager Ethan Hock has been identified as the victim of the fatal stabbing in Melbourne's northwest on Monday night. The boy, 14, was walking home from a night out with two friends in a quiet residential street when a vehicle came out of nowhere and struck him at about 11 p.m. Two offenders, armed with knives, then got out of the vehicle before assaulting him and leaving him on the road in St. Albans around about 11 p.m. Havoc is being remembered by loved ones as a sweet and amazing friend who attended Braybrook College in Braybrook. By the sounds of it, I think it might have been a case of mistaken identity. I just don't understand why they would smack him with the car, get out and stab him. He's only 14, guys. Also, what was a 14-year-old doing out at 11 o'clock at night time? Anyway. Two masked offenders remain on the run this morning after the St. Albans attack, about 17 kilometres from the city CBD. Emergency service found the Braybrook boy lying on the road and he died on transportation to hospital. His friends fled the scene and contacted police immediately, and the weapons that were used during the attack have also are also not yet to be discovered. Okay, that was a really badly written sentence. Anyway, Detective Inspector Dave Dustin said the attack was definitely targeted. So that's what I was thinking too. Great minds think alike, Dave. Great minds think alike. We have no information at this stage if it's gang-related, although to me it sounds very gang-related. And it looks by the picture that the boy was of some sort of Polynesian or Asian descent. But we believe that it's a targeted assault on the victim. We don't know the relationship at this stage, but the victim and his friends were walking on the street when this vehicle came, you know, barreling out of nowhere and surprise attacked them. It's not a very good surprise. Surprise. Poor parents. It comes as CCTV has emerged of a group of 3 teenagers believed to be the victim and his friends before the attack. The footage was captured from a row of shops near the train station. Neighbours living in the suburb about 17 kilometres from the Melbourne CBD said they were woken up after hearing a commotion. I heard a car door shut, and I heard some screaming and some people shouting. It's a bit too dangerous to walk around out here at night time. So that's the residents who live in that area. So I don't know if anyone who's listening to this channel grew up in Brisbane, but it's giving me like Woodridge, Anala vibes, guys. So, you know, anyone who... I know those are 2 different places, so no one at me, but I'm just saying that's the feeling I'm getting from this. Probably more Anala than Woodridge, you know, a little bit. Yeah, anyway. So a crime scene has been established while officers work to determine the cause of the teen's death. Homicide Squad detectives are on the scene as they investigate the boy's death, and officers from the Major Crimes Unit are also at the scene. So there's 3 different units working on that scene, and hopefully I shall have some more answers for you guys tomorrow. I mean, yesterday we didn't even know the boy's name. Today we do. We didn't even know if he was stabbed, but we did know that he died, and that was horrible. Okie dokie, so let's move on to our next story of today, and I love all the variety that today's news has, because now we're moving on to like mob bosses and organized crime attacks. So fears of revenge attack after a major underworld player was gunned down in broad daylight at Bondi Junction. Bondi. You know, Bondi is sounding scarier and scarier each time I read about it. I feel for you people who live there. So police are fearing a wave of potential revenge attacks in the wake of a brutal execution of a major underworld figure at Bondi Junction yesterday. So Alan Moradian, 48, who had strong high-level links to the... I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. Love you too. I think it's called the Comercirio. Oh my god. Excuse me, bike people. Please don't at me. I have no idea how to say that. I think it's Comercirio. Bikey gang. You know. If you are part of that gang, or if you do know how to say it, could you please write it in the comments phonetically, because I have no idea how to say that. Anyway, it's believed to have been residing at the Whitland Lane apartment complex in Spring Street at Bondi Junction when he was killed. He was shot dead at close range while he sat in the driver's seat of his car in the building's underground car park about 8:30 a.m. yesterday. So it seems to be like a lot of sort of car park underground shootings happening. I mean, a couple of months ago, another bikie boss was shot in a car park in broad daylight just after he got out of prison. So, you know, nice. So he was using the Bondi Junction apartment as a quote-unquote safe house following fears for his life. Obviously not very fucking safe. And this morning, police are continuing to search for the 2 gunmen that they believe were responsible. But 1 gunman wasn't enough. A relative told the 9 News that he had given up his life of crime and insisted that he was now a good man. But detectives insist he was still had a huge target on his back. Look, there is only two ways you leave organised crime, and one is in a box and the other one is in prison. So, yeah, you can never leave. You know, there's a reason. Once I think I'm out, they pull me back in. Yes, I know that was a Godfather reference. I am a nerd. Don't at me. We are saying that it was well planned and executed murder at a high level criminal blah, 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 identity, the detective said. He believes that the initial information was there was at least 2 shooters or 2 people involved. He was jailed for at least 6 years in 2011, and his role in the cocaine importation plot had links to the Comanchero, I think that's how you say it, bikie gang. He was previously described by his wife as the Tony Soprano of the Australian drug trade. Soprano reference. Love it. Love it. That's pretty funny. Yeah. And that's it. That's it for that story, apparently. But, yeah, police are fearing it. There's going to be a bunch of revenge attacks, but I don't think any civilian has anything to worry about, honestly. You know, they're just killing each other. Not that I'm okay with that, but yeah, I just think it's sad. Stop, people, stop hurting each other. What have I done? Oh, I think I've done the link of 2 of the same color. Only just now I realised that. I think I'm like 5 in or 4 in or something. It's okay. It's alright. It's okay. Alrighty, so misconduct now. Moving on from crime bosses to misconduct. So misconduct by a federal jail guards led to Jeffrey Epstein's suicide. Apparently. Justice Department watchdog says. Dun, 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 dun. If you don't know who Jeffrey Epstein is, then you've been living under a rock, my friends. So Jeffrey Epstein was left alone in his jail cell with a surplus, which just means too many, bed limons the night he unalived himself. He nearly all of the surveillance camera in his unit didn't record. One worker was on duty for the 24 hours straight, and that is because we don't have many guards not to do anything with any kind of conspiracy. And despite his high profile and suicide attempt 2 weeks earlier, he wasn't checked on as regularly as required. Yeah, because it was one dude who had like all of this work to do. Jesus. On Tuesday, early Wednesday, in America, early Wednesday here in Australia, but Tuesday in America, the Justice Department's watchdog said that a combination of negligence, misconduct, and outright job performance failures by the Federal Bureau of Prisons and Workers in the New York City jail enabled the wealthy financier to take his own life in August of 2019. And I mean, if you can go on the internet and type in Jeffrey Epstein and type in suicide conspiracy, there are a lot of conspiracists out there who think that he didn't unalive himself, but perhaps was murdered in prison. I'm not saying he didn't deserve it. I'm just saying, why do we care? Why is it still news? In fact, I care so little that I'm going to move on from this case. Alrighty, so police are launching a murder investigation after the death of a 17-month-old little boy. I heard this on the news this morning and I was absolutely devastated. I really didn't need to hear this before going to work at 2 o'clock this morning, but, you know, it made me cry. Detective Inspector Mark McKeown said that Ronan's injuries, which is the 14-month-old child, were believed to have been caused by an assault, which is really, really sad. In the 2 days before Ronan was taken to the hospital, he was being cared for by friends who were known to his parents at an address in Ferguson Street in Geelong North. apparently. When he was returned to his father's house on Ottawa Way at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, he was unable to be roused and an ambulance was called. Oh, don't tell me that these quote-unquote friends murdered this poor child. Oof. The boy's father told 9 News that he and his fiancée had barely slept since they lost their son, who was their only child, which, you know, duh. Police will focus on what happened to the family friend's home in the hours before Ronan was returned. We've been provided with an explanation as to how Ronan's injuries occurred, but we're not satisfied with the truthfulness of the information. It's certainly subject to a murder investigation now, which is what the detective said. No one has been arrested in relation to the death yet. Police are asking if anyone ever heard or saw anything involving a young child in Ferguson Street on the afternoon of June 7th to please contact them. Other residents of the street have also been left stunned by the death. It's shocking. It really is. The small baby was so pretty, and it's really upsetting, you know, regardless of how pretty the child is, it's upsetting. We feel so sorry for the family and everyone who's been involved. A photo of Rowan's pram has been released in hope that it will jog the memory of anyone who saw him being pushed along the street on Tuesday, June 6th, or Wednesday, June 7th. So I'm hoping that it was just a very tragic accident. Perhaps he was standing up in his push stroller and fell out and hit his head, or something like that. I don't know why you wouldn't rush him straight to the hospital, but I will never understand people's motives. So, and let's not make an assumption, because assumption makes an ass out of you and me. So, a Queensland man, so moving on from that, I'm going to move on to some terrorist stuff. So, a Queensland man has been jailed for fighting in a vicious Syrian battle. So, a Queensland man who admitted to using an assault rifle during a vicious Syrian battle will spend at least another 2 years and 4 months behind bars. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name because I am terrible at Arabic names and I don't want to offend anyone who may have this name. But the 34-year-old faced Brisbane Supreme Court on Tuesday for sentencing after pleading guilty in May to foreign incursive and engaging in hostile activities and advocating to terrorism. I was about to say tourism. I was like, oh yeah, put him in jail. He's been advocating tourism. So he left Australia in July 2013 and established a base in Turkey from which he could cross the border into Syria the following year, prosecutors said in May. The former Gold Coast resident was not a member of any terrorist organisation, but admitted to taking part in the efforts to overthrow the Syrian government as an infantry fighter who fired on another name I can't pronounce, I think it's like a German assault rifle during the battles that caused hundreds of casualties. So he just like mowed people down. So I think you say his name is Aziz, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Told a Melbourne-based journalist at the time that he found the battles quite fun and thrilling. What a fucking douche canoe. Justice Susan Brown accepted that Aziz between 2014 and 2016 had fought alongside groups prescribed as terrorist organisation by the Australian government, such as, not even going to attempt to say it, which is closely aligned with Al-Qaeda. I only know how to say that one because of basically the news. Look, sometimes when you are dyslexic, such as myself, I find it very difficult to pronounce names that are not in English because the English writing of things is crap. So I find it very hard to enunciate words that I don't know how they are pronounced. So instead, I try and look things up phonetically. Yeah. Dyslexia tricks. Tricks and tips, guys. Anyway, so he's been sentenced to 6 years and 1 month and 2 weeks in prison. He's already served 1,294 days in custody, including in South Australia, and spent time detained in Turkey, apparently. So all of that, and he still didn't get that much time. I mean, he mowed down hundreds of people, and yeah, whatever. Okie dokie. I think I'll do 2 more stories, and that should equal our 1 hour today. So this second last story is about a man who's missing after questioning over a cold case murder of a woman found at the base of Queensland's cliffs. So a man has been questioned over the death of a young woman on the Queensland Sunshine Coast 26 years ago. Has gone missing in Victoria as the previously suspected suicide was probed and changed to a cold case murder. So originally it was the coroner decided that it was a suicide. 26 years later, it has now been announced that it is not. It is a murder case. And then all of a sudden, the main suspect has disappeared. So Megan Louise Rose's body was found at the base of Point Cartwright Cliffs in Mooloolaba on the morning of July 18th, 1997, when a passerby looked down after spotting a cask of wine and a glass in the grass. An appeal for information today was largely focused on Rose's relationship with her then partner, who was the last person to see her 25 years ago, and who had taken out an insurance policy in her name. So, yeah, see, the wine and the glass is a big red flag for me. So hours after the announcement of a $500,000 reward for information in Queensland, police said the 70-year-old man questioned on Sunday had vanished from Portland in Victoria yesterday. His vehicle, a Selva, it's kind of like silver but fancier, holding Captiva, was located at the Cape Nelson's Lighthouse car park on the 26th of June at around about 5:30 p.m. Police identified the man as Keith and released a picture of him after commencing a search of the area. Keith is described as having a medium build, approximately 170 centimeters tall, with grey receding hair. I mean, he's 17. The fact that he has hair is amazing. At the time of Rose's death, her white Suzuki hatchback was found at the top of the cliffs, and the judge determined soon after that there was no good purpose for an inquest based on the police report, and the said death was not believed to be suspicious. Her cause of death was determined by multiple injuries as well as her blood alcohol reading, which was 0.148. So I hope when he pushed her from the cliffs, allegedly, that she had no idea what was happening, because that's very drunk. That's not a little drunk. That's very drunk. That's riding the porcelain bus crying because you think you might die drunk. Yeah, so Rose's late father and mother, who have advanced dementia, probably a good thing, as well as her 2 sisters, Christine and Fiona, have always maintained that she didn't take her own life and that she was indeed murdered. In 2009, the case was reopened, which is helpful when someone is very, very, adamant. And Rose they believe that Rose began dating her former partner in 1995 in Victoria, and then the couple moved to Queensland in 1996. Not uncommon. When originally questioned, the partner told police that he had been home with Rose on the evening before her body was found on July 17th in 1997 at their apartment in Marcola. The pair had been drinking earlier in the day at the Maroochydore RSL. And he told police that he offered her a hot drink around about 7:15 p.m. before moving to another room, and then at 8 p.m. discovered that she had left the apartment and the car was gone. Yeah, that's not believable. Just saying. He was notified by police that her body was found the following day. Further investigations revealed that he had taken out a life insurance policy in her name on May 21st of 1996. So literally a month or so beforehand. The policy did not cover suicide within the first 13 months, but Rose had died just after 13-month waiting period. Again, not a huge coincidence. Oh, I forgot that she died the year later. Her partner received a payout of more than $200,000. That doesn't seem like a lot of money. Detective Senior Sergeant Tara Kentwell said shortly before her death, Rose had told her family that she intended to separate from her partner and had made plans to see family and friends to try and escape him. What, and it took them how long to fucking decide that it wasn't a suicide? That's bullshit. Younger sister Fiona today said that she had been so concerned by the changes in Rose's behaviour that she had made plans to move to Queensland herself. And trust me, as an older sister, or just as a sister in general, I would also. I mean, I went down to see my sister recently just because. So I could appreciate that because she was acting kind of strange over the phone. So I went down to see her, support her, and give her a hand. But apparently, according to this Fiona, her demeanour had changed. It's hard to explain because she was such a bubbly person and so happy-go-lucky, her sister said. And then when I would call her on the phone, we would talk for about 3 or 4 hours at a time, but these conversations weren't as bubbly. And towards the last 2 months of Megan's life, she had discussed her sister moving back to her sister, trying to obviously get away from this person. So yeah, Radcliffe said that her sister never disclosed any coercive or controlling behaviour, but had told her sister that she was planning to end the relationship with her partner and was basically waiting for myself to get to Queensland, said the sister. So she knew something was wrong when her phone calls were not going through to her sister and conversations were very basic, and it was like she couldn't talk sometimes, and other conversations were like very open and you could tell that there were 2 different conversations was going on. I mean, that makes sense. So if I had to make a presumption here, I would say Joe Blow has got an insurance policy out on his then girlfriend, fearing that she would leave his controlling ass, and then exactly 13 months douche canoe after the suicide part of the policy was cleared, he drove her in her own car probably, or followed her over to this lookout, and they drank wine and then he pushed her off. That is my speculation. Again, this is all in my head. I just made it up on the spot. I just watch way too many crime shows. But this is my speculation because it's just super sus that he is now missing because police would like to talk to him. So he's like, "You see you later." He knows where this is going. So, yeah. What a jerk, guys. What a jerk. Alright, was that my last story or do I still have one more? I could probably get one more in. Nah, I don't want to read that one. Alrighty, let's move on to this last one. And this one's fraud. We all know how much I love talking about fraud. But a Gold Coast woman allegedly faked terminal cancer and pocketed thousands of dollars. What a cunt muffin. Yep, you heard that correctly. If you are perhaps offended by the word "see you next Tuesday," then I apologise immensely for your offence. But I am Australian, and for me, it is just a filler word. It could be anything, you know? It's not offensive. Well, I don't mean it with offence. But offence is one of those things that is taken and not given. Because what you might find offensive, I certainly don't. I do not find the word "see you next Tuesday" offensive, but I understand that some people do. So I try not to use it all that much. But I am Aussie. Sometimes it just slips out. It's just like slippy, just a quick slip of the tongue. And out comes the word. Alrighty. So let us talk about this. So a Gold Coast woman who allegedly faked cancer and pocketed thousands of dollars in donations from the community is set to face court. Thank goodness, because that, my friend, is the ultimate bullshit fraud. So Olivia Ward was working at the Meringue Bar after hours childcare centre in February last year when the 27-year-old told her colleagues that she had quote-unquote terminal cancer. Her former boss, Phil Maisie, claims. So she shaved her head and my staff would go and pick her up from her quote-unquote appointments. So she even went so far as to like pretend that she was having appointments. I mean, that's fucking commitment. But let's face it, it's a stupid lie because terminal cancer means you have to die. So eventually people are going to figure it out. It was a very believable story, obviously, and the community, because no one would believe that someone's just going to say that they've got terminal cancer when they don't. The community rallied around her, obviously. And they held a fundraiser at the local school. Oh my God. One of the young girls that she used to look after smashed her own piggy bank and came in and gave her the money. Oh, that is so sad. Ugh, heartbreaking. All up, it's alleged that $18,000 was raised and given to Ward. Chad Smalls said that he donated $2,500 to the fundraiser, which he claims he raised after losing his own sister to cancer just a few months earlier. That money was to go to other people who are in similar situations to my sister and to hopefully help for the end-of-life journey, because, you know, that is expensive stuff, you know, and you have to organise your own funeral, and ugh, it's so hard. And, you know, dying of... This is so fucked. This is just so fucked. There's no other word for it. Police have alleged that Ward's terminal cancer was faked and the donations weren't hers to take. I agree. It's fraud. I would never have guessed in a million years that she didn't have cancer, Small said. When asked by 9 News about the allegations, Ward responded, "I have no comment." Me neither. You're a scumbag. Ward will face court later on this week. And you know what, guys? She won't even get that much time. It's absolutely ridiculous. Oh, I feel so sick and dirty. What a fucked up bitch face. Alrighty, that was a lot of swears in the last bit of this video, so I apologize if you were watching with children around. I might just put a little bit of trigger warning on the actual post once I post this so that you know in advance that I have a bit of a potty mouth today. Welcome to Australia. Anyway, have a wonderful day, guys, and I shall see you tomorrow. Hopefully, now that I'm getting used to this routine, I will be able to upload daily. But yes, once again, this is Bertie, which is my sister's blanket I am making for my sister because she's obsessed with Tim Burton films, so I named it Bertie. Yeah, so if you're keen to get one of these blankets, like I said, you can just inbox me and order one, or you can subscribe and comment and go into the draw to win one. Okay, see you guys tomorrow. Bye!